friends, welcome. I brought another story for library today. Since we've been hearing about the three bears and Goldilocks, which is a famous folk tale that many of you have heard many times, this is a funny version of that story called Somebody and the Three Blairs. So instead of bears, it says Three Blairs. And this is by Marilyn Tolhurst and illustrations by Simone Abel. So this is a version of the Three Bears, but it's very silly and very different from the normal Three Bears story. So you'll have to be thinking about what's the same and what's different. One Sunday morning in a small house on the edge of town, Mr. Blair, Mrs. Blair, and Baby Blair were sitting down to breakfast. "It's such a fine morning," said Mr. Blair. "Let's take a walk in the park." So is that like the Three Bears? A little bit, right? But instead of bear characters, there's three people characters here: a mama, a dada, and a young baby. And instead of going to walk in the woods because the porridge is too hot, they are going to take a walk in the park because it's a nice day. "What a good idea," said Mrs. Blair. "Feed a ducks," said Baby Blair. So they took their coats and a bag of breadcrumbs and set out for the park. And while they were gone, somebody came in to the door. Somebody knocked on the door, and when nobody answered, somebody tiptoed inside. So this time, instead of Goldilocks, who's a girl, a person, a human, it is the bear who's coming into the human's house. And we're going to see what's going to happen with that. He sniffed and sniffed. He looked at the breakfast table. Oh, that's kind of like the regular story. She's hungry and she looks at their porridge. But in this case, they're not having porridge. They're having cereal. And he says, "This food is too dry," said somebody. And then he says, "This food is too noisy," said somebody. So that's Rice Krispies. Have you ever had that? It makes like a crackling sound when you put the milk on it. "But this food is just right." What kind of food do bears like? Honey. He found some honey to eat. He looked for somewhere to sit down. Oh, that's like the regular Goldilocks and the Three Bears story. She tries out the chairs. Let's see what kind of chairs the Blairs have. "This seat is too hard," said somebody. "This seat is too wobbly," said somebody. "But this seat is just right." Can you see what kind of seat he found? He found a high chair. That's the baby's high chair. He looked for something to play with. Oh, in this version, the chair did not get broken, or at least right now it doesn't look broken. He looked for something to play with. What's he gonna find? "This game is too noisy." Oh, this is different from the Three Bears. She goes upstairs to the beds. She doesn't look for toys. But he finds cans, and he's saying they're too noisy. "This game is too cold." Oh, what's he playing in now? Playing in the refrigerator or the freezer, and all the food is cold. That's not usually a game. "But this game is just right." Oh my goodness. This game is playing with cooking or baking, putting things together. That looks like a messy game. He looked for something to drink. That's different from the regular story. "This rain is too hot." Is that rain? No, that's a shower, but to a bear, he thinks it's rain. "This pond is too small." Is that a pond? That's a toilet. "But this stream is just right." And that's not a stream either, but maybe to a bear it looks like one. It's a sink. He looked for somewhere to sleep, and that's like the regular Goldilocks and the Three Bears story. Finding somewhere to sleep is what Goldilocks does at the end. "This bed is too big," said somebody. "This bed is too small." That doesn't even look like a bed. It looks like a shelf. "But this bed is just right." He found the baby crib. When Mr. and Mrs. Blair and Baby Blair came back from the park, they saw the breakfast table. "Somebody's been eating my crunchies," said Mr. Blair. "Somebody's been eating my Crispies," said Mrs. Blair. "All gone," said Baby Blair. They looked around the room. "Somebody's been sitting in my chair," said Mr. Blair. "Somebody's been sitting on my chair," said Mrs. Blair. "Busted," said Baby Blair. Oh, the baby's high chair did get broken. Oh my goodness. They went into the kitchen, and what are they going to find in there? A big mess, right? Remember all the things he was playing with, the bear? "Somebody's been emptying the cupboard." "Somebody's been raiding the refrigerator," said Mrs. Blair. "Naughty," said Baby Blair. They went upstairs. "Flood," shouted Mr. Blair. "Help," shouted Mrs. Blair. "Lot of water," shouted Baby Blair. See what happened? The bear left the sink on and caused a big flood. The baby likes it because he's playing in there. They looked in the bedroom. "It's a burglar," said Mr. Blair. "It's a monster," said Mrs. Blair. "It's a big teddy bear," said Baby Blair. You see, he found somebody in his crib. It's escape from the zoo," said Mr. Blair. "It's escape from the circus," said Mrs. Blair. "It's escape down a drain pipe," said Baby Blair. "Somebody phone the police," said Mr. Blair. "Somebody call the fire department," said Mrs. Blair. "Somebody gone home," said Baby Blair. "Bye-bye. Come and play again tomorrow," said Baby Blair. And he's waving in the window. He liked the bear. He thought that was a fun game. I don't think Mommy and Daddy thought that was a fun game. I hope you enjoyed that story, that very silly story of somebody and the 3 Blairs. And I will see you next time. Bye, my friends.